If your character has a really rich backstory, or you've worked especially hard on your world building, it can be very tempting to try and include all of this in your story. The thing is, readers don't like just being handed loads of information in the middle of the story, like it's a study sheet for a quiz they're gonna take later. In other words, how to avoid info dumping. I'm going to share 2 strategies you can try, but first, it's important to remember that a lot of the backstory and world building info that you've created is for you, not your readers. Readers should only be told something if it's vital to their understanding of the story. You, as the writer, need to know more than they do in order to write the story convincingly. So please don't fret if your carefully crafted backstory and world building doesn't make it into the novel. It actually isn't supposed to. So one strategy to avoid info dumping is to read through your piece and make note of every single sentence that explains or references the backstory or world building. Once you've identified these, ask yourself, do my readers need to know this in order to understand the story? If the answer is yes, great. If the answer is no, you might be better off deleting it. Another strategy is to go through and find those passages where backstory and world building is given and make note of the ones that are especially long. We're talking more than 5 or 6 sentences in a row. Same thing. Ask yourself, do my readers need to know this in order to understand the story? If you do feel that everything in this long passage is essential for understanding the story, then you should ask yourself, how can I break this information up? In other words, how can I thread it through the story so that it is given in occasional and organic small bursts instead of just one long bloated passage? And my final tip is that if you're not really sure, just leave it in. And then when you hand it over to an editor or a beta reader, ask them to pay special attention to any instances of info dumping. They will probably spot some that you couldn't, as well as offer some suggestions you wouldn't have thought of.